Hi, hello, welcome back to the 11th episode of my knitting video podcast. It's been a while since I've done one of these, so I've got lots and lots to show you guys and to talk about. Let's get started with what I'm wearing today, and this is the Ivy Top by Petite Knit. It's a relatively new pattern that's come out a few months ago, and I saw Knit with Juliet making one of these, and I absolutely fell in love with it. It's got this really stunning boat neck and this kind of style that I really like of just like a sleeveless top. And this top is actually knitted on quite a large gauge for a summer top. I knit mine in Lena, not Tin Lena, by Sun Is Gone in the colour 4632 Rose Lavender, and this is a DK weight yarn. It's a mix of linen, viscose and cotton, I believe, but it means that it's really like a perfect summer yarn, and also it's going to be an amazing like autumn transitional piece and also to wear under sweaters in the winter. So I really love this top at the moment. I knitted this on 4mm needles, which is I believe what Petite Knit suggested in the pattern, and I knit a size small. However, I actually reduced the depth of the armholes, which is something that I saw Knit with Juliet do actually with hers, and I kind of followed her advice with that as well. I actually reduced the length of the armholes even more than she did. I just found that they were so deep, like especially after blocking now, like my bra is still a tiny bit visible underneath, like you can make it not visible. And this is with a lot of adjustment. I knit my armholes to 12.5 centimeters, whereas Petite Knit I think suggests like a lot more than that. I can't remember what the pattern exactly says. I've written that on my Ravelry. I don't actually remember anything about knitting this project, to be honest, because it's been quite a while, but I definitely enjoyed knitting it. It was such a speedy knit as well. I'm used to summer tops just taking so long because they're usually knit on like 3mm needles and fingering weight yarn, so they're just a little bit of a slog usually, whereas this one was just, I think it took me like a week or two to finish this one, which is just absolutely perfect. That's exactly what you want in a summer top, and it's also not too bulky, especially because of the yarn. Just the properties of linen, viscose, cotton just makes it not too warm, because I think if it was in wool it would just be like a sleeveless sweater really but because it's like in a plant yarn, it's fine. What really drew me to this is actually the neckline. On Petite Knit sample, I was not so keen on this top because of kind of the ease of it and just how it laid on her. It looked really good on her, but I thought it would look absolutely horrible like on me because I'm a lot less like petite than Petite Knit, whereas Juliet, I think we've got quite a similar like figure. It looked absolutely amazing on her. I think she did a little bit less of positive ease than Petite Knit did, so it was a little bit more form-fitting, and that's kind of exactly what I went for as well. I was going more for like a fitted look rather than it being like oversized, which like I think it just fits me perfectly. I used this yarn previously for a blouse #1 by My Favorite Things Knitwear, and I did really enjoy like knitting with it. I actually used Tin Lena held double, but it's like a very similar experience. I think it was a lot easier using this just held single, so I probably would go for the same thing. The amazing thing about this yarn is that you can put it in the wash, which is just like the best thing ever, because you don't have to like hand wash this top. You just chuck it in the washing machine, and it does shrink it a teeny weeny tiny bit, but once you wear it for a little bit it does like stretch out with wear, so like it springs back out. It doesn't pill at all, so it's like completely fine. It ends up being a little bit more blended and it softens with wear as well, which is just perfect. There is no edge finishing and you can't really tell, especially with the yarn, but I think if it was made with a wool it would roll a lot more. Like you can see my edges do roll the teeny weeniest tiny bit, but I don't really mind that. But I think with wool it would not be so ideal. The neckline is actually shaped with short rows and it's just like quite high up, which I really enjoy, and then the shoulders, kind of the construction is very similar to the April cardigan by Petite Knit, and I do really enjoy the construction of that cardigan. I will talk about that a little bit later on in this video. Overall, it was pretty much a 10 out of 10. I think I will re-knit this top next summer because it was just so speedy. Maybe even in the spring, like it would just be a lovely spring piece. And I've been wearing it tons. Like, I think I wear it at least once a week, maybe even twice a week sometimes if I can't be bothered. And it's been like really perfect for my new job as well. It's very office appropriate. It's like a really nice pop of colour, but it still looks kind of professional. So yeah, I just really love this top and I would really recommend knitting it. As you can tell, I'm really in my pink era with the pink cushions behind me, the pink top, pink plant pot. Honestly, there's just so many pink accents in my life at the moment and I'm really enjoying the pink. I've heard that enjoying pink again is a sign of healing somewhere on Instagram, so I guess I'm definitely there. Yes, as you can tell. Even my little mugs are pink, but they're such a cute shade of pink. I really love this like dusty pink. I think dusty is just amazing and it just fits perfectly into my life. So naturally, my next finished object is this really stunning dusty rose April cardigan because, as I've already mentioned, April cardigans are just stunning. The April cardigan actually has a really interesting construction. I think it's called a compound raglan, contiguous or something similar. You essentially have this like saddle shoulder-esque detail at the top, and then you have the increases for the sleeves, and then you end up finishing it off with a raglan. It's a really beautiful design and the like detail on it is just absolutely stunning, honestly. Petite Knit is a known designer for a very good reason. Her patterns are just truly just stunning. The attention to detail is absolutely perfect. The pieces are so beautiful, both to look at and to knit. The instructions are just amazing. This is the third time I have knit this pattern. My first one was a tiny bit of a flop. The second one I just wear all the time. If it wasn't for the buttons, it would be absolutely the best piece of knitwear that I have ever made. I just made a tiny mistake when sewing on the buttons. It didn't come out quite so great because the bottom button is a little bit looser than the other buttons. Like you can see, it's got like a little bit of a situation moment, but you can also see how uneven my ribbing was. This is knit in Drops Flora in the colour White Fog and held with Drops Kid Silk in the colour, I think it was like a light beige or something, or like beige essentially. I can't remember which colour it was, but I will pop it on the screen, so don't worry. And it's got this really beautiful mole. I spoke about this piece lots of times before. I just love the way it looks. I wear it absolutely all the time and it has worn absolutely beautifully. Like you can see no pilling, nothing going on, there's no felting, and I literally wear this cardigan pretty much every single day. Yeah, it just gets so much wear. The Drops mohair gets like these little fluffies that you can just pick off, but a few years of wearing this cardigan is just absolutely stunning. But on my new version, you can really see how much neater the ribbing is, and I'm not sure whether that's because of the yarn or whether my tension has improved. On this cuff, it's less neat than on this one, but this is actually because here I was doing travelling loop, whereas on this cuff I was doing just magic loop. So I would definitely recommend doing magic loop if you want your tension to be a little bit more even. Essentially, if you don't know what travelling loop is, with travelling loop your little loop between the needles travels and you like move it around instead of just having the fixed two needles. It's useful for some things, and for other things it's not ideal. As you can see here, I noticed once I finished like knitting here, and then you can see my knitting just became a little bit more even. I couldn't be bothered to redo the cuffs because I really wanted to wear this piece, and it doesn't really bother me that much. And I also knit the ribbing a little bit longer than the pattern suggests, because I thought the sleeves would be a little bit smaller and I didn't want them to be too short, but they ended up being quite long on me. They're not too long, I don't have to fold them over, they're like just exactly where, if it was like ½ centimetre longer they would be too long. Not exactly what I was going for, but they still turned out cute and I still really love wearing them, so it's fine. As you can see on this piece, perhaps not while I'm holding it up like this, but in the B-roll you can definitely see that the buttons are perfectly sewn on, and that is actually because I've been doing it wrong this entire time. I have knit countless cardigans. Like, I'm the cardigan girly. I just knit cardigans all the time. Like, I think I have like 3 sweaters and like a million cardigans. I never sew on my buttons properly. Like, I've tried various different ways, but the most obvious one just has not clicked into my head. I usually do it based off of vibes. So I will like sew on the buttons, like just to see. I've measured it with a ruler before. I've tried putting the 2 button bands against each other and sewing the buttons on top of the buttonhole or to the bottom of the buttonhole, and I just could never figure out how to make them work because I end up with a lot of gaping between the buttons, like not gaping like this way, but rather it just ends up looking like this while I'm wearing it, and it's not very flattering. It doesn't look great. But you can just count the stitches. And it just has not clicked in my little head. My friend Anne-Sophie, I went on a call with her this morning because I was like, I'm fed up of having my buttons not fit properly. So I asked her, how do you sew on your button bands? And essentially what she said to me is she counts the stitches on the button band to the middle of the buttonhole and then sews on the button where the middle of the buttonhole is, but she does it stitch by stitch rather than by length or anything like that. And I repeated that, and yeah, they work perfectly. So if you're trying to figure out how to sew on your buttons, that is how. Here you go. I have solved everyone's problems, or rather just my problem, because I don't know if anyone has also struggled with this. I knit this in Knitting for Olive Merino, held double in the colour Dusty Rose. They didn't have a heavy merino version of this yarn, so I thought I'd just hold it double. I didn't really want to hold it with a mohair because I wanted something a little bit more not mohairy, but I know that Knitting for Olive Merino wears beautifully, and I know that it won't pill as much as perhaps other yarns would, so I thought this would be a perfect combination. I knit a size small actually, but I don't know what happened to my gauge. I did do a gauge swatch, I think, maybe. I might have not done a gauge swatch, that's probably why. I knit it in a size small, which is smaller than my previous cardigan that I made in a size medium, and this one ended up being bigger somehow, and I'm not sure how that happened, but the fit is still okay. It's not exactly what I was going for. I wanted it to be a tiny bit cropped, just hit my waistline around where my jeans end, so like at the top of my jeans, and I wear the high-waisted Levi's ribcage normally, whereas this ends up hitting me a little bit lower than that, which looks still quite cute, but I think it's not exactly what I was going for. I thought I could wear it with dresses as well, but again, it just turned out to be a little bit bigger, so definitely swatch. If you're knitting something, don't make my mistakes, just do a swatch. Make sure you block it as you would block the final garment. And another thing is it ended up being a little bit wider than I expected. Yeah, I don't know how it just ended up this big. The buttons I went for are just these teeny weeny buttons in the size that I think Petite Knit actually recommended. I didn't measure my buttonholes before I bought them because I bought 2 different types and I couldn't decide between them, but I made a decision this morning to go for the lighter ones. They actually have a little flower on the other side of them, but I thought because of the yarn, the cardigan can end up looking a little bit creasy, and the flowers just made it look very creasy and like accentuated the creases, so I thought like a plain button would be a little bit better, so I'm just using the back of it. The cardigan pops more with these buttons that are lighter, whereas with the darker buttons, the buttons pop out a little bit more, and I think they kind of like, when they're not shiny, they kind of blend into the cardigan. I'm not sure if it will be visible in this light. I've actually only sewn on the buttons this morning, but I have worn this cardigan to work without buttons, like for one of those days, and it was really cute. But the only thing is I don't have anything to style it with because it's like a light pink. I can only really wear it with a white top, and I have placed a clothing order recently because it's payday soon, and I don't have many clothes at the moment just because at my previous job I was wearing a uniform every day, so I didn't really have to wear any like nice clothes into the office. I was just wearing like a black polo every day, and I could only wear my own clothes like on the weekend, so I didn't really need many clothes. Whereas now that I actually go into the office and go into the lab, I kind of want to look a little bit cute and put together, you know. I will hopefully have a little bit more to wear with this, but I really wanted to incorporate a little bit of pink into my wardrobe. The one modification that I made on this piece that I also did on my previous version is I knit a double knit button band instead of the button band that Petite Knit suggests, just because I think it looks a little bit cleaner, a little bit more polished, especially with this yarn that's not exactly like super duper neat. The button band, I followed Handmade by Florence's instructions on her April cardigan. I've done this before for my other cardigan as well. I think I cast on 15 stitches for the button band in Italian cast on, and I just knit double knitting all around, and then my buttonholes, I think I spaced them so that they were closer to the cardigan rather than the edge. Really like the way the button band looks. I think I need to reblock it because the blocking I did was a little bit speedy, so perhaps it will look a little bit tidier once I've redone the blocking. Overall, I'm really happy with this piece, and I think I will get quite a lot of wear out of it, even though there isn't that many tops I can wear with it at the moment, but still, with a white top it looks cute. I also have a twist loop top that I haven't worn in ages and I need to fix it. I think I need to frog it and then re-knit it, but I think it would look really cute with that yarn because I made it in Knitting for Olive Merino in the colour Cloud, which is like a slightly pinkish white. This would look stunning with it if the top fit me properly. My third finished object for the episode is this poet scarf. This is a pattern by Sari Nordland. It's my first Sari Nordland pattern as well. She's got like a whole range of this poet stuff. Essentially it's this really stunning lace. It kind of reminds me of like peacock feathers. I'm not sure what it's actually meant to be, but I just think it's so beautiful. I knit this in Cardiff Cashmere Classic in the colour 657, and it's this really pretty, slightly dusty purple. I actually really thought this was a really bright purple, and then I compared it to Knitting for Olive Merino in the colour Dusty Violet, and this is just so much more muted. It's a little bit lighter. I am not that bougie, and I don't think I can knit anything in Cardiff Cashmere that's like a whole garment, because this took just over a ball of yarn. I think this is my second ball I got through, like not much of it. I will put on my Ravelry the actual grammage because I haven't weighed it yet. This is like a little pop of bouginess in my wardrobe. I really wanted like a tiny little scarf, and I thought this would be really cute. I wanted a purple scarf as well, so this was just like a nice little bougie purchase. I'm not really sure if I suit tiny scarves and how to style them, but this is definitely warm, and I've worn this to the office before because I actually have to cycle to my work, so sometimes I get a little bit cold, and this was just perfect to like throw on. It's actually a little bit better wearing it this way around because it covers my neck a little bit better, but I guess it's a little bit less like fringe girl aesthetic. But it works, it's functional, and it's a little bit bigger than like a traditional tiny scarf, so I think it just covers a little bit more of the neck, which is nice. Unfortunately I can't wrap it around twice, like I can only wrap it around once and then have to tie it, but yeah, it's still cute, and the lace is just so stunning. Like I'm just so in love with this lace pattern. It wasn't too hard either. It did take me quite a while to knit just because I was like in the middle of lots of other life stuff. Honestly, it was so fun to knit, and it's unfortunately not a lace that you can really remember, so you have to look at the lace chart as you're knitting it the entire time. So it was not like the most portable knit. Like I still knit it on the train and stuff, but I had to actually look at the chart while doing it. I actually learned from this project that lace charts have a slightly different way of reading when you're knitting it flat, because everything that I've knitted in lace was actually knitted in the round, and then my peacock cardigan that I have knitted flat didn't have this issue. Essentially when you knit in the round you just kind of go like this with the lace, whereas when you knit lace flat you have to go like that, which kind of makes sense but I've never thought of it. So I started knitting this scarf and I actually made a mistake, and it was looking really ugly, and it was like bunching up on itself like this, and I just could not figure out what was wrong with it. And then I realised, hold on, maybe there is something with the lace, and yeah, it turned out I was just reading the chart wrong. You also knit it with the edging as you go, so you don't have to pick up the edges, which is really nice. But then the downside of that is that I could not block mine out to be entirely flat. Like the edges are a little bit wavy in certain spots, which doesn't bother me too much. But yeah, if you're a perfectionist, that might be slightly annoying. I think that's just the beauty of the lace. Also, this part isn't like perfectly flat. The little point on it. I do really like this scarf, and it's really pretty purple. Yeah, I think I'm definitely going to knit other things in this lace pattern because it's just stunning. I think the socks are just something I would love, love, love to knit. I mean, I don't know if there is a hat, but if there is a hat, then I will definitely knit that. And I forgot to mention, the yarn is as soft as everyone says. I know everyone mentions that cashmere is just like a stunning fibre, and it honestly is. Like, especially the Cardiff Cashmere Classic is just so ethereal feeling, and it just gives this really stunning halo. It's kind of like mohair, but a lot more subtle and like soft, and it just fills itself out just beautifully, and the little halo is like a lot lighter than the main colour. I don't know how to describe it, but it just looks so ethereal, and it's really soft around my neck because I'm naturally quite prone to itching around my neck, and like my head area I can't really wear anything but merino normally. Like mohair is a massive no-no for me, so I just wanted something soft, and this is absolutely perfect for that. I didn't want the lace to be too defined, so that's why I didn't want to use merino. So I think Cardiff Cashmere was just the perfect choice for that. I will need to figure out what to do with the leftovers though, because this yarn is too bougie to just like lie in my stash not used. Final finished object is this camisole number 9 by My Favourite Things Knitwear, and this was a buddy knit. I made this together with my friend Anne-Sophie from Candid Knit, and we were just like knitting on this on Zoom and just yapping, and it's just this really, really stunning camisole. She's actually knit one before, but what she found is that the straps were a little bit too narrow. We both decided to make an adjustment to the straps and cast on slightly more stitches and then just figure out the shaping around the armholes. She decided to cast on 10 stitches and I ended up casting on 12, which for me I think was the right decision, and hers also looks absolutely stunning. I think she mostly followed the instructions for the size small, and I ended up wanting to have a slightly more fitted piece because I thought like more fitted camis just fit me a lot better, and I looked at the final stitch count for the body for the camisole, and I thought the extra small would fit me the best just in terms of like negative ease, because I've had camisoles that are a little bit looser, and in this style I just didn't think it would fit me quite so well. That was a really good life choice. I actually just cast on the extra number of stitches, which meant that I didn't really need to do any increases around here, because what you normally do is you cast on and then you like shape the armhole. But because my cast on took the entire increase number, I essentially just knitted flat down here, just shaped for the neckline. And then once I got to down here, I just shaped for the armhole and then cast on the armhole stitches. I think I had to cast on slightly fewer of those as well. But I ended up knitting these kind of for the largest size and then knitting the body for the smallest size, which was a little bit confusing, took a little bit of maths, but I ended up getting there, and I think this piece just fits me absolutely perfectly. I could not be happier with it. If you've got the pattern and would like me to send you the pattern modifications that I made, I'm happy to do that, but I don't really want to say it on Ravelry because obviously it is a paid pattern and it's very hard to explain without just sending you my notes on the pattern. So yeah, just let me know on Instagram if you would like to see my notes for this. The thing that makes this pattern like no other is the edging and just the finishing of the piece, and it's knitted in stockinette that's then folded over and sewn on, but you actually pick it up from the other side that you normally would. So typically you would hide the like edging here, whereas on this piece you show off the edging, so you need to cast it off quite neatly, but it just gives this like the most beautiful finishing, and I just think My Favourite Things knitwear is just very good finishings and making pieces look really polished. When I finish a piece, I typically have a thing of just hating the finished object, and I just think it looks awful on me, and I think it's just a thing because I look at it for too long and then I just want it to be perfect, so I have to put it back for a little while and then not wear it, and then I pick it up and I think it's absolutely perfect for me. And this was no exception. I initially thought the fit looked horrible on me, the colour looked horrible on me, but now it ended up being my favourite summer camisole that I've ever made. And again, I've been wearing this thing just non-stop. I think I've just been circulating through every single knitted camisole that I've got like over the week when I go into the office, which is quite funny because I literally just wear knitted objects to work now and nobody really realizes they are knitted. I mentioned it once and then people were like, what? That's knitted? I think a lot of people don't know what knitting looks like, but anyway, that's a tangent. An additional modification I made to this top, as if there wasn't enough of those, is I actually did some waist decreases. This pattern I don't think has any. I ended up doing 12 decrease rounds on the body from the smallest size as well. I think this was done to match my basic boat neck tank that I knit last summer, which just fits me perfectly, so I kind of copied the measurements from that, and I just did like a decrease where you've got 2 knit stitches and then you've got decreases on each side of those, and I did them on both sides of the bodice. I also modified the hemline. I essentially knit this top a little bit longer, and I actually didn't do a folded hem as the pattern suggests, just because I tuck this into my bottoms and I could not be bothered to do the folded hemline, because like there's literally no point, like no one's ever gonna see this like worn without it being tucked into my jeans, so it just felt like a little bit of a waste of time. And I also didn't want to deal with like having to make sure that the cast off is like stretchy enough, and I just thought this was just like a better life choice and better use of my time to just literally cast off. I think I just did Judy's Magic cast off. So I did a knit stitch and then a yarn over and then folding, like flipping that over. So yeah, I just did a stitch and then a yarn over whenever I could be bothered, and sometimes I just wouldn't, like I'd do 2 stitches and then I yarn over. But you get me, just a typical stretchy bind off. Another thing that I'm not actually sure whether the pattern suggests or not, but I used just thread to sew down the edging rather than using the same yarn, and it ended up being quite invisible. You can slightly see it on the inside, but on the outside you totally cannot, and it just looks really seamless. I also got into a rhythm of like doing it all in one motion, so instead of doing each step as a single step, I just followed all the steps in one motion. So I did it all and then I pulled the thread, which just made it 10 times quicker as well. It was a very enjoyable knit, but I must say that the edges were a little bit of torture and I had to really push through them, but it was very enjoyable to yap with my friend Anne-Sophie while doing it, and yeah, we just kept each other sane while doing those stupid edges. Honestly, they are just so worth it. I don't know how she made 2 of these though, because yeah, it was very long to sew them down. It took like 3 days just to do the edges. And yeah, I'm not exaggerating, it was very long. The yarn I knit this in is actually discontinued, which is just a crime. This is Knitting for Olive Cotton Merino in the colour Elephant Purple or Purple Elephant. I never know which way around it is. But yeah, this shade has been discontinued for a little while. I managed to snatch like 5 balls of this from some, I think, German yarn shop or something. Yeah, and I just ordered it in. I literally emptied their shelves. Whatever they had left I just ordered, and yeah, I couldn't find this yarn anywhere else. If you know whether anywhere stocks this, I would love to know, because I would love more of this. I really want a sweater in this yarn. It's just the colour is absolutely perfect. It's so stunning. It's like a grey but a slight tinge of purple in there, which is exactly kind of what I love wearing. This was actually my first time knitting with cotton merino, and yeah, it's a really nice experience. The yarn at this gauge, I knit this top in 2.75mm needles rather than 3mm to hit gauge, isn't as nice of a gauge as the merino is. There's a little bit of rowing out with this yarn, and it's a lot harder to get like an even tension with it. I think Anne-Sophie found the same thing because we literally knit it in the same exact yarn as well. But yeah, it's still a really pretty project. It's just something to keep in mind, especially if you're a perfectionist, that this yarn isn't as kind of nice to look at the end, especially if you knit stockinette. I definitely would not use this for ribbing because I think it would look not so nice at all. This is mostly cotton. I think it's like 20% merino, but it does have like the tiniest bit of the merino properties. It's very buttery soft. Like the knitting for olive merino itself is like a rubbery softness, whereas this has like a buttery lotiony feel to it, and it's like slightly fuzzy. Definitely does not feel like cotton. It's more closer to the merino. It's definitely not like any other cotton I've tried. Like, it's a very different feeling from this. This feels a lot more animal fibre like than a plant fibre. I think it's just a little bit thinner than the merino, or at least it feels like it ends up knit up thinner. I think it's because it's got a little bit less stretch than the merino. So it just doesn't fill out just as much, and it does stretch out a little bit with wear, especially width-wise, but because I knit such a small size, it ends up like fitting me perfectly. Normally I think I would knit like a small to a medium, whereas this is like an extra small, so it just like sucks it in a little bit. With cotton merino, I think if I'd knit it in the merino, I wouldn't have had to knit the extra small, but yeah, that's something to think about if you do go for this yarn. I'm not really a colourwork knitter. I very much like plain pieces, maybe a little bit of texture, but I typically don't like colourwork. It's just a little bit too busy. I find that too much contrast between things doesn't really suit me, and it just kind of overpowers my face. But when I saw Handmade by Florence come out with the Forget Me Not sweater, I just knew I had to knit it, and I really loved her second version of it that she knit in like a darker colour. I was initially going for the lighter one, but then I just kept looking at the dark one and I just thought that would look so stunning. I'm not sure if it would suit me, but it's just so pretty that I could not knit it. I went to the shop called Beautiful Knitters in London in Pimlico, and I ended up choosing these three colours of Knitting for Olive Merino, and I'm holding these double, like each of these. I just pull out of one ball, but from the centre and from the outside, and these are Soft Blue, Dusty Rose and Dusty Petroleum Blue. And I think they give like a very similar vibe as Florence's sample, but they're a lot more muted than her version, so I think they suit me a lot more. I'm still not entirely certain whether this jumper will suit me that well, because obviously there is quite a bit of contrast between them in the end, and I do think this colour is just so pretty on me. I was not sure how it would look, but yeah, I really like the way this looks, so I'm very happy to be knitting a sweater in this colour. And this is how the colourwork is looking. I think it's just so stunning. It's these really pretty flowers. I ended up going for fewer colours than in the kind of original version, so I followed obviously the second sample, which has 3 colours rather than 4. So both the like flower petals on this jumper are all the same. They kind of look like Christmas trees, I do realise that, but it's still cute. It still kind of looks like flowers, and yeah, this jumper is just so stunning. I did the folded neckline with a twisted rib rather than the normal rib, and the pattern calls for like a funnel neck, which I wasn't entirely keen on, and I really like, again, in the second version of this sweater that Florence released, it being like a nice folded over neckline, and I think the twisted rib really adds to this pattern. Please excuse all my thousands of ends that I need to weave in. This is a circular yoke pattern knitted on 4mm needles, but you can size up your needles for the colourwork to 4.5mm. It's a very size inclusive pattern, as most of Florence's patterns are, so you can probably find a size for yourself quite easily. The only thing that worries me about is that it's a circular yoke, which don't seem to suit me quite so well, just because I've got quite broad shoulders that are very like straight across rather than like a you know, feminine, tiny shoulders, like curved kind of version. I'm a little bit worried about how this will fit me. I'm knitting a size C in this, which is like a size up, I think, from my measurement, or I was on the cusp of 2 sizes and I went for the slightly larger one of the 2 because I was like a little bit worried that it wouldn't fit me in the shoulders quite so well. This is the exact same yarn combo that I used for my April cardigan, which, yeah, is just so nice and soft, and I think it will be a perfect just jumper. I didn't want anything that would be too scratchy because I just wanted this to be an easy throw on, and I also didn't want anything with mohair just because I don't really enjoy putting on over my face like mohair because it ends up being stuck in my nose, especially knitting for olive mohair just gets absolutely everywhere and it gets stuck to my nose, gets stuck to my mouth, and it's just not the most pleasant experience. Like, I still love the way it looks, but you know, if I can avoid mohair sometimes, then I will. I've actually finished this yoke relatively quickly because I was really pushing through the colour work. It was a little bit of a slog, not gonna lie. The 3 colour work was a little bit painful. The floats are just so long in this pattern. I definitely would not recommend this as a beginner knitter, like beginner colour work knitter, beginner knitter pattern. It's definitely a harder one. I only knit 1 colourwork project before this, and I don't think I can call it colourwork. It was like a tiny Christmas ornament. Like, it took maybe like 20 minutes of colourwork, whereas this has just massive floats. I was trying to catch them. This is like cork floats. You can see some of them I didn't catch, and that was a mistake. Yeah, I got a little bit lazy sometimes. I don't know why people show their floats in these videos. If you know, please let me know. Is that like a flex that you catch them? I don't know. But yeah, it looks very pretty. It's so cute. And I really like that it's circular yoke because you can just do this. You can show it like as a little circle. Yeah, the only thing about this is my tension really changed along like the knitting of this sweater. I wasn't sure whether it was my tension or whether it was increases that was making it bunch up a little bit. I think it's pretty much gone now after blocking because I did block this little circle, but during knitting it was looking a little bit funky, so I kept ending up like making my tension a little bit looser, and I sized up my needles for the colour work as well because I was worried that it would be too tight because everyone always says that colour work ends up being tight. So now my tension does not match the original tension. Like, here you can see there's the 4mm needles, there's the 4.5mm needles, so it looks a lot bigger than it should. So now I'm worried to pick up the rest of the body because I'm not sure whether I should knit it on the 4.5mm needles and just accept that it will be a little bit too big for me, or I should go to the 4mm needles. Then I'm a little bit worried that I'll have like colour work and it will be like sucked in and it won't look so good. If you've had this problem before, or if you've knit this sweater, or if you've knit any other circular yoke sweater, I would really love some suggestions and opinions and what you think I should do, because yeah, I'm really scared of this project now. Now that this has happened. And no, frogging is not an option. That's not happening. I will not be going through this again. Yeah, I see why Florence used to just knit 1 colour work project a year, because this is a beast, honestly. 3 colours is a lot, especially with the floats. Like, where there was like tiny little floats, that was fine, but it was exhausting. Like, you have to think about catching the floats, you have to think about them not being too long, you have to think about the tension, and then also I had 2 strands of each yarn, which I had to think about them not tangling each other. Oh, it was a little bit of a nightmare. Centre pull of knitting for olive yarn is not ideal. But I was gonna say I would not recommend, but I definitely would recommend both the pattern and the yarn. I know I'm complaining a lot, but I think it will be a joy to wear and I will love the finished object. It was just a little bit of a faff to knit. I think actually Knitting for Olive has since come out with heavy merino in those colours, so I would definitely use those. And they came out pretty much after I finished this yoke, so that was a little bit annoying, but happens, I suppose. It's a cute project and I'm really excited to have it finished, but I'm really worried about it, so please let me know what you think I should do. My next cast on is something that I've been meaning to knit for absolute ages. It's been on my mind and in my queue just for the longest time. When I first started knitting, I actually cast this on in a different yarn, and I mentioned this in my fall knitting plans actually, so you can go back and watch that episode to see my previous cast on of this. But this is the sweater number 15 by My Favourite Things Knitwear, and this time I'm actually knitting it in Knitting for Olive Merino. Again, I know this episode is very Knitting for Olive heavy. I'm sorry, but also I'm not sorry, because this is just a truly stunning brand. They are quite expensive, but honestly you do get the quality, you don't get much pilling. I think it's just a very long wearing yarn, and it's just the most beautiful colours. I think it's worth the investment, like especially if you have the money. I used to not be able to afford them, so I would only wear the Knitting for Olive Merino for summer tops, and you only need like 2 balls of that, so it doesn't end up too expensive. And I have purchased this on sale as well, which is just the perfect time to order Knitting for Olive yarn, because then you can buy a little bit more of it. And this is Knitting for Olive Merino and their soft silk mohair in the colour Dusty Artichoke. This colour used to be very popular a few years ago, and for very good reason. And also this pattern used to be very popular a few years ago, also for a very good reason. The combination of the two is just truly stunning, especially in this gauge. I think it's knit on 4mm needles, but I'm knitting this on 4.5, I believe, to meet gauge. It was hard to figure out the gauge on this in this cable situation. I did a gauge swatch and I think I was slightly off gauge, but also if you like pull it a little bit. Yeah, I didn't put too much effort into blocking it, so I think it should be okay. It should be fine, hopefully. We'll see. I might eat my words soon. This pattern is just beautiful. Like the amount of cables, they just look stunning. I mentioned in my last video that I wasn't sure about the green. I wasn't sure how it would look on me, whether it would suit me, because I'm not a green girly. But ever since I started this project, like when I was talking about this yarn in the video, I was like, I don't know about this. But then I was editing and I just thought that colour suits me so well. So yeah, now I'm a pink and green girly somehow. Don't know when that happened. So yeah, this colour is just the most stunning dusty green, and I think it will look absolutely beautiful on me. And the cables. This pattern has this really beautiful cable going across the back, and then you pick up stitches for the shoulder. My favourite things knitwear with her beautiful just details is just amazing. I just love her patterns. She's not always great in terms of size inclusivity, which is a massive shame, and I don't think this pattern is very size inclusive. But I do have an alternative, and it's the Lavender Haze crew neck by Knits by Pia, and she's coming out with a very similar pattern to this, which is very size inclusive. It's got lots of sizes. It's slightly different in terms of construction, and it obviously looks a little bit different, but the vibe is the same. It's the same kind of cables, and yeah, if you don't fit into My Favourite Things knitwear sizes, or if you would like to support a smaller designer, then definitely go check her out. I obviously already had this pattern, so I'm knitting this one because I have it and I don't want to spend more money. This is it, and you can choose which pattern you want. My partner's sister came in for like a little housewarming welcome moment when his parents were over, and she gave us this little flower and this beautiful dusty green plant pot. And if she had given this to us like a few weeks ago before I started this sweater, I wouldn't be so excited about it. But now I'm in my green era, and look how beautifully these match. Like, they're just perfect for each other. Like, this is just the perfect gift, and the beautiful roses. Oh, I'm so happy with it. Like, don't get me wrong, I would have really enjoyed the gift either way. Like, I'd be grateful and stuff, but because now I'm in my green era and I'm enjoying this colour so much, like, it's just extra beautiful, and my partner also enjoys the green, so it's really nice. Also, the pink and green is very wicked coated. I'm very excited for the part 2 releasing soon. I previously mentioned that I've actually knit this pattern before, or rather I started knitting it when I was a relatively new knitter a few years ago, And honestly, it was such a struggle at the time, and I just remember it being a massive slog. I was really struggling. I didn't understand like how to read my knitting in the cables, and I had to constantly look at the pattern. I was just so confused, didn't know what was going on. So I was quite nervous starting this over. Actually, it is so much easier now. Like, I'm getting through it really quickly. This is like 4 days of progress, like 4 evenings of progress, I think maybe 5. So I'm really speeding through it. Like, obviously now I've got a bit more stitches, then it's a little bit slower, but I'm like casting on, like doing the increases for the armholes. This is the back panel, by the way. So I'm really starting to speed through this, and I remember it took me weeks to get like probably this much progress. So honestly, I think skill level definitely does matter in knitting, and just kind of experience. So don't be discouraged with like harder patterns. You can get through them, but if you want to put them to the side for while you're getting used to knitting, that's also totally fine. I definitely think I could have figured it out and I would have knitted it like fine at the time, but it's just so much more enjoyable now because I actually know what's going on. And also I'm noticing that the cables look so much better when I'm not using a cable needle, and then when I'm just cabling without one. They just look a lot tidier, and my tension is still a bit funky around the cables, like they're pulling a little bit, but definitely a lot less than they were when I was using a cable needle. And it was just such a slog because you have to like put down your knitting, grab the cable needle, and yeah. Whereas now it's just so much easier. And if you don't know how to cable without a cable needle, there is lots of tutorials, but essentially what you do is you put your needle through the stitches, through the kind of like say 3 stitches that you need to cable through, and then you drop your first 3 stitches and then you pick them back up again with kind of the needle after you picked up the other stitches. It's not too hard. It's a little bit scary, especially with like more slippery yarns, but when you have mohair, it's just so easy. Like, I've definitely knit socks before and dropped my stitches like without a cable needle and stuff, and that was really painful because your stitches can end up just like unwinding. But if you're using mohair or more of a grippy yarn, it's honestly just totally fine. It's so much easier. So if you do try knitting without a cable needle for the first time, I would definitely recommend using like a non-slippery sticky yarn, because it will just save you a lot of nerves and it will make the experience a lot more enjoyable. And then once you're used to it, you can do like more slippery yarns, and then yeah, you can figure it out a lot easier. I think Other Knitwear has the Season sweater that's very similar to this one as well, but it's got like staggered cables which do look really pretty, but I much prefer the look of this. It looks a lot more like minimalistic and just kind of polished. Yeah, there's several of those kind of sweaters, but I think the look of this one is my favourite so far. The next work in progress you may have seen several times on my channel before. This is the sweater number 8 by My Favourite Things Knitwear, and it's this really stunning 2x2 rib like turtleneck, mock neck sweater. It's knit flat at the start, and then you do absolutely no short row shaping, nothing. You just knit like a tube. It looks like a trumpet when you're knitting it at the start, and then it somehow turns into a sweater. I don't know what magic this is, but it's a very easy to knit sweater. Unfortunately, I think it's one of My Favourite Things Knitwear's older patterns, so it's not at all size inclusive. It's got extra small to extra large, which honestly is not ideal at all. But the one thing about it is that it's quite easy to modify, so I think you could just modify it very easily to fit you if you don't fit any of the sizes, or you can play around with gauge as well. I'm knitting this off gauge, so I don't think it will fit as intended, but I have modified it by casting on using long tail cast on. I'm not sure what the pattern suggests, but I just did that because it was the easiest. And I'm knitting a size medium in this, and I'm again knitting it off gauge, so it will not fit me as I wanted it to. I wanted it to be a little bit fitted, but naturally this sweater is very oversized with slightly like tighter sleeves, which I'm not sure how that will look, but I hope it looks cute. I'm knitting this in Drops Baby Merino in the colour 01 White, I believe, and Drops Kid Silk in the colour 38 Chalk. And as you can see, the drops baby merino is like a neutral, maybe slightly warm leaning white, and the drops chalk is like a really nice slightly beige off-white that's like leaning very cool toned, kind of greyish, and together they're just making this absolutely perfect, stunning off-white colour, which I'm just so excited to wear. I think it will suit me really, really well because it's not like a brilliant white, it's just like an off-white that I really, really love wearing. I've got a whole winter set, so gloves and hat and scarf in this colour, which I just think suits me so, so well. Like, I think it will just look absolutely stunning. My favourite things knitwear has the most beautiful details on her pieces, and this one is no exception. It's got these really stunning increases on the sides. My favourite things knitwear is just the queen of all things details somehow, but she does mean business with her oversizedness of things, because I think this will be massive on me and I hope it still like fits me quite well. I maybe should have gone for a size smaller, I don't know how it will fit me, and I'm also a tiny bit worried about the fact that it has no shaping, although I do kind of like the look of this because it does end up having like a little bulge on people, which kind of looks a little bit high fashion. Yeah, I'm not sure how it will look on me, but we'll see how it goes. It's just a typical drop shoulder, so that's why I think it will be perfect for kind of modifying and making it a little bit more size inclusive, which again is slightly stupid that she hasn't gone back to this pattern and fixed it and made it more size inclusive, because yeah, it's truly a shame that more people can't knit this. But yeah, it's a stunning pattern and I'm very excited to have this. I've actually been knitting on this for quite a while because I think I started this last winter and it was a little bit of a slog because of the like 2x2 rib at the time, and then I dropped it for the summer because obviously mohair is very unpleasant to knit on in warm weather, and now I've picked it back up. I'm making some good progress on the body, like I'm getting to a point where I feel like it will be done relatively soon. I'm not sure whether I want this long so I can tuck it in or if I want it a little bit cropped. Maybe I should just follow the pattern for the length. I never do that, I just end up kind of going based on vibes and figuring out my own length somehow. Let me know how you would knit this, and if you've ever knit this, let me know what length you chose for this, and how you're finding the finished object, because yeah, I'm really excited to have this. And my final work in progress is another elevated basic, and this is the Monday sweater by Petite Knit. It's just a pretty standard raglan sweater. It's got like a few stitches between kind of the raglan stitches, so that looks a little bit more elevated, and what actually drew me to this pattern is the collar. You start actually knitting this with the collar and then you carry on to knit the body, which makes it a lot easier to knit, like especially for a beginner knitter. I think this would be absolutely perfect. It's kind of similar to Florence's, like Handmade by Florence's Step by Step sweater, but I think the gauge is a little bit finer on this. I really like this pattern so far. It's taken me quite a while because I'm a little bit uncertain on the body length, how long I want to knit this, and the ribbing has taken me quite a while. This piece I also cast on several months ago, like last winter, and again I had to drop because of the mohair, but now I've picked it back up, and the beige isn't speaking to me as much as it was last year, but I think it will be a really nice basic to have. The collar is a little bit different than a lot of other kind of raglan sweaters. It's because it's quite narrow, but also it's not very rounded. Like I find that with some raglans I'm not entirely a fan of the collar because it's very like rounded, and I know that it's on purpose because people like it a bit more like that, whereas I really enjoy that it like sits flat around your neck. It's got a little bit of shaping around the back, it's got some short rows, but largely is just like a bit square around your neck, which I really like, and it's also folded over, so it's a little bit bulky looking, which just adds like a little bit of detail and like a little bit of interest to otherwise a very basic sweater. I think I'm knitting a size small in this. I wasn't entirely certain whether that would work quite so well, but now I'm looking at it, I think it will fit me perfectly, especially after blocking. I'm knitting it a little bit cropped, not like cropped, but a little bit shorter than I think the pattern suggests. Again, I did not listen to the pattern for the length of this. We will see if I regret that in the future, but so far I'm really liking the look of this sweater. I'm really enjoying my yarn combo. I'm knitting this in, again, knitting for of merino in the colour Nordic Beach, which unfortunately has been discontinued, but I managed to snatch it before yarn shops ran out of it in stock. And I'm holding this with their mohair in the colour linen, and they are slightly different in colour. Like the linen is like a slightly darker brown, whereas the Nordic Beach is like a greyish kind of colour, and together they've got a tiny bit of marling, but they end up giving this like a very grey beige colour, which I think is stunning. Honestly, it will be a perfect basic for me. It will be just so easy to just throw on over any outfit, and I think it will just be a nice little basic to have, and it will be very office appropriate, especially for like days when, I don't know, sometimes I'm a little bit tired of colour. Like, I know that pops of colour are meant to make you happy and stuff, but I think I get very overwhelmed by especially brighter colours. Like, that's why I really enjoy like muted tones, because I don't think they overwhelm me, and I manage to find that like joy in those colours, whereas like bright neon jewel tones, like I just find them so tiring. I don't know how to explain it, but they just feel messy to me sometimes, especially if there's like lots of colours together. So sometimes I'm a beige girly, and obviously at the moment I'm not in quite such a beigey mood, but I think this will be very nice for moments where I just want something simple and easy, nice to style, and beige, because we sometimes need beige in our lives. Like, beige is good. It will be done, hopefully, by the next episode. I think I spoke about this several times on the channel like already, but yeah, it's just a little bit of a longer one. I wasn't expecting to have this finished like particularly quickly, just because it's like a nice piece to have to just pick up and knit on. I also don't, well, now I do have the needles for it, but I think they were in another project previously, so I can finally knit on the ribbing. But I've been really enjoying some of my other projects, like my just cast on cabled knit is just taking up a lot of my time at the moment with knitting, and yeah, due to just life stuff I've not been able to knit quite as much as I've been wanting to. We finally arrived at the acquisitions portion of events. When I was purchasing the yarn for my Forget Me Not sweater, I was browsing through some sock yarn at Beautiful Knitters. My friend Anne-Sophie ended up finishing these really beautiful socks in Zauberball Shopper Fuller, I'm not sure how to pronounce that yarn, but it's like a self-striping kind of yarn with a bit of a gradient, and I really liked the way hers turned out, because typically I don't really like funky yarns like that, but she ended up holding it with just like a plain colour and doing a little bit of texture, so that it's very like subdued and muted rather than just being like bright and out there. And I was very inspired by that, and I really want to recreate like a similar look, maybe in a different stitch pattern, in a slightly different colourway, but I purchased this beautiful yarn again from Zauberball. I'm not sure which one is the name of the yarn and the brand, but you get what I mean, they're like very popular. This yarn has these really beautiful purples and pinks and blues, and I think it's very much my colour scheme. I think it might be nice to like hold this with like literally any of these colours, or even a grey it might look quite cute with. Maybe the West Yorkshire Spinners signature 4-ply in the colour Poppy Seed, I think this would look quite nice with, for like a darker version, or maybe like a pastel pink or purple, or even like a light blue. This would just be such a stunning sock. I currently haven't got a massive sock mojo just because I've been focusing on garments. But I think once I'm more into socks again, which will happen in a few months or years, or I'm going to be knitting for a very long time, so I will definitely use this up at some point. And it's just nice to have in stash, and it's inspiring. Just this colour, it's really pretty to look at. I very much enjoy the way these colours go through, like, between each other. I'm not so keen on the very bright, like, turquoisey colour, but I'm very keen on the purples and the dark blue. It's not so bright as their other, like, colourways, so yeah, it's very much me. And speaking of Aunt Sophia from Candid Knit, for my graduation, she was absolutely the sweetest and sent me a little, like, gift box with some little prezzies, and that was just the most adorable thing. One of them was like a really lovely tea, but the rest of it was 2 of these stunning project bags, and I've been using them so much. They're just like tiny string kind of bags, and I never thought that these would be useful whatsoever, because like they're just so tiny. Like, what are they gonna hold? Like, they're beautiful, but what are you gonna use them for? And I stand corrected. I've been using them so much. You just put your project in there, and it's like separates your projects perfectly in like a bigger project bag, and you can take this anywhere with you. And this actually fits an entire sweater, and the yarn for it, so very useful. And I've been using them so much. I want like 100 more of these. They've been just such a game changer. Another thing that I got from Aunt Sophie was these beautiful tiny little hanks of hand-dyed yarn. She dyed these herself, and honestly, what craftsmanship. Like, oh, they're stunning. Slightly different from each other. One of them is a little bit more warm toned, another one is a little bit more cool toned, and another one is like slightly in between. I'm not entirely certain what I want to knit with these, because this is, I think, fingering weight, or like just sock yarn, and these are mini skeins, so I'm not sure how much they weigh. I really need to check their weight, or I can just ask Aunt Sophie. But yeah, I'm not entirely certain what to knit with this. I was thinking maybe a tiny scarf, or if there is enough that I could maybe knit a purple hat with these, because that would be absolutely stunning. Maybe I could hold them with like a merino, or yeah, I don't know, but they're just beautiful. And yeah, I just want to knit them up into something so I can just have them around with me all the time. Look how pretty they look as little skeins. Like, you could just look at them and they're just so pretty. Like, they're so cute. She also sent me these beautiful stitch markers. I haven't actually opened them because I wanted to show you them in the podcast, but they're just so like me colours. There's some greys, a little bit of pinks, and a little bit of like clear stitch markers. They're just like these little gems on golden little hoops, and I think they're like openable as well, which is just perfect. Like, I'm so excited to knit with these now that I've showed you. I can actually use them. I also forgot about them and remembered about them while preparing for this podcast, so you guys help me remember about these. And then I wore this beautiful bracelet in my last video, but it's just this little cute flower bracelet. How adorable is it? It's got these purple flowers, and now we've got matchy bracelets. I also got this West Yorkshire Spinners Bo Peep Luxury Baby DK weight yarn. This is 52% Falkland wool and 48% nylon, so it's quite a good DK weight sock yarn. I think it's quite a high nylon content, but it does feel very woolly and soft. So, I mean, it's a baby yarn, so it's very soft. I hope it doesn't pill too much, but I do have a very good kind of experience with West Yorkshire Spinners yarns, and I think these will be perfect for a nice little pair of DK weight socks. Is this really pretty like dark grey colour. I really am missing like a dark grey DK weight pair of socks in my like collection. This is in the colour Robot, I believe, or 08. I bought 2 of these just for like a pair of socks. I haven't got really a plan for these. But it's nice to just have some grey yarn in your stash. I do find it really useful to have like a few skeins of yarn that I haven't got a plan for in my stash, so that when I see a pattern that I want to knit with it, it's nice to just pick up some yarn and just knit it. Sometimes like I haven't got enough yarn like at the moment you can see I have lots of works in progress, but I've definitely had times where I'm just like, I want to knit but I haven't got yarn, I haven't got time to buy yarn, so yeah, it's just nice to have a few balls in stash. And my final acquisition is finally a yarn winder. I have been winding yarn skeins with my hands for the longest time, and yeah, it's okay, but sometimes you just need a yarn winder, and I finally had to accept that. I would not have bought this if I hadn't actually gotten a gift card. I actually just got a gift card from my work. I think it was as a leaving present or something, and I didn't have anything to use it for. It was for this yarn shop called Wool in Bath, and they just didn't really have any yarns that like speak to me. Like the colours just weren't really exactly the colours I would use, and I really wanted to use up the gift card because it was quite a lot of money, and I knew that I wasn't going to be in Bath anytime soon because I just moved to London. So, well, I was about to move to London, so there was just no point in me kind of keeping the gift card. I've been lying to myself that I don't need one, and yeah, it's just going to be useful to have because I do think I have a few skeins, especially the hand-dyed yarn from Anne Sophie. It will be just so much easier to wind using a ball winder yarn rather than just my hand. Thanks so much for watching this episode, and I hope to see you in the next ones. Bye!